You know, one of the things I notice about leaders that work is leaders that come from humble beginnings, right? And if I were to tell you, like, who is the most famous leader that comes from humble beginnings, who would you say?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I could say
Oh,
Barack
no, like
Obama.
the
Okay.
number one. No, no, oh, no.
Oh
Number
yeah.
one humble leader of all time.
Probably
I think
Abraham
it's
Lincoln.
Jesus.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. Well, he's the deck stacked with. He's got the deck stacked with him. It's God,
So like at church this morning,
But that's a good point. Like he picked, he is God. He didn't come into sort of the Egyptian palaces and stuff. He came into a humble carpenter's
right.
house.
I mean, he God placed him there. He was like, "Hey, I want my son to lead these people. I'm not going to put him at the top of the pyramid. I'm going to put him at the
Hmm.
bottom, right? Because I want him to lead the people realistically." And that's like it kind of like solidified my idea of what great leadership comes from when I heard that story at church this morning. I was like, "Ah, he is trying to tell us something, right? Like he's speaking through us and through the Bible and through all these different people, and he's like, oh, he's trying to tell us something with this." And you look at John Adams, you look at Abraham Lincoln. You know, there are a lot of leaders that come from humble beginnings, and they typically are pretty darn good. I mean, if you look at all of our founders, Alexander Hamilton is like, he's not humble beginning. He's like, should have never ever survived
Never had
beginning.
a chance. Yeah.
He never had a chance, and he made something of him. George Washington was humble beginnings. Thomas Jefferson was a little, he was closer to the privileged class, but still, like, just in the time period, in like the society that they had, they just didn't have a big opulent society. So even your upper class at that period of time still wasn't that far away from the people compared to what you have now or what you had back
Hmm.
then in the crown, right?
Right.
Um, and so like I think that's something that we should focus on, as citizens. Is like, all right, well, where do these people come from? How far are they from the problem? Where do they live? If you live too far away from the solutions that you're trying to call the problems you're trying to solve, then you're probably not the best person to be solving them. We should make sure you're running in a district that fits
Yeah.
and as citizens, we have to hold them accountable. Be like, hey, you don't belong running here. Like, run somewhere else. Run for the Senate. Let one of us run for the spot where we belong. you know
No, I got that sense just walking through the Louvre last week. Speaking of upper class opportunities, I mean, like you look at the jewelry and the ostentation that the French nobility had, and all I could think was like, this is pretty cool stuff. But I could see why people were revolted, because if you don't feel like not for if you don't feel like it, but if you know for a fact you're not getting you've got huge problems in terms of there's poverty and starvation. There's talking about like endless wars that we talk about now. Like there were truly endless wars of just like the nobility of all these countries fighting with each other, bringing people in. The soldiers ransacking the countryside and stuff, and affecting everyday citizens. Like there's big issues that were happening that the elite at the time probably didn't really feel and didn't understand and
right.
had nothing to do. Now, you can get away with that if there isn't a sort of an information flow. But if you think about the French Revolution, like that's you look at your this country you just helped win their own revolution, and then you've got Thomas Jefferson is over there as the envoy, like talking about how great freedom is. You start to get a little jealous and you start to think like we could do better. Now, the French Revolution was very bloody, probably definitely mistakes were made, but like that's the kind of thing that I think we wanted to avoid on the Madison Republicans, is sort of a peaceful change, a peaceful understanding of what the problems are, recognizing that there's always systemic changes, there's always cycles to these things, and really what you need is someone in the driver's seat who understands what's going on and can bring things, park peacefully, park without hitting anyone.
Right. I mean, yeah, not just to the highest bidder, right? Like just because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
person can be the loudest person in the room because they can pay for more advertising doesn't mean that what they have to say is actually like valuable, right? Like, as individual citizens, we need to be able to recognize that. We need to be able to amplify voices that are thoughtful and, problem solving as opposed to problem causing. And then we need to be able to turn the TV off, turn the social media off, turn it off to the people that are leading us in the wrong way. Just we don't stop arguing with them. Just ignore them, right? Like that's the biggest thing we got to do. Is like it becomes less profitable if you just stop watching them. You know, it's a
Yeah.
train wreck.